Hello and welcome to the SciFirst MovieTalk episode. So, in this episode, I will be discussing Disney's 1991 animated classic, The Beauty and the Beast. Basically as directed by Gary Truesdale and Kirk Wise, and as watched as part of Family Film Night. So, before I start, I must give a big shout out to Trent Martin, who requested this review via my Facebook page, and for his support. Many thanks for your suggestion, Trent, and basically for anybody else also watching who may have a film they would like me to review, I would only be too happy to take a stab at it. So thanks again, Trent, and let me know anybody else. So this review is actually also dedicated to my wife, as this is her favourite Disney film, even to this day, with all the other ones out. So I thought it would only be too right to also give her a shout out too. So this is Disney's 30th animated classic, and just to clarify, this review is for the classic animated tale released in 1991 and not the live action remake released in 2017. The movie is based on the circa 1740 French fairy tale of the same name by, and apologies for the pronunciation, Jean-Marie Le Prince de Beaumont. Now, in a similar vein to The Lion King, but perhaps not to the same level, this film does hold kind of some special memories for me. This time around, really just kind of for some kind of magical nights, watching the Disney on Ice and the stage show versions, which, again, at the risk of jumping the gun, were as spectacular as the film itself, particularly the version on Ice. So check out the review of my 1994's The Lion King to find out why that film in particular does hold a special place in my heart. So, moving on. In the movie, we learn that a prince once had a run-in with an old beggar woman who had turned up at his castle asking for shelter, offering a rose in return. The prince was repulsed by her appearance and so turned her away from his castle. The woman warned the prince not to judge appearances, but the prince took no notice and did turn her away once again. Turns out that the beggar woman was actually a beautiful enchantress in disguise, and not happy with the arrogance and narrow-mindedness of the prince, she cast a spell on him, the castle and all of its inhabitants, turning him into a hideous beast and his servants into enchanted objects around the castle, which itself became dull and grey with a more gothic appeal. The spell would only be broken if, by the prince's 21st year, he could find true love, and that love was returned. Personally, I've always thought that the punishment really didn't fit the crime. It seems quite severe, especially for the servants, that basically had nothing to do with the old beggar woman being turned away. I know it wouldn't have made for much of a film or a tale, but surely she could have given him like a plague of boils or something similar, or just in fact turned him into a beast and nothing else. But anyway, I suppose thankfully for the magical and enchanting story which then unfolds in the movie, the enchantress did choose the more drastic course of action. We then do fast forward in time, kind of a number of years, and meet the young and independent, charismatic and strong character of Belle, as voiced by Paige O'Hara, a loving, kind and considerate individual with a real thirst for life, a love of books and great stories, and happy to define her own path in life, not wanting to settle for the template that people in her town expect, nor the hand-in-marriage of the town's resident jock, Gaston, as voiced by Richard White, who's a self-styled, in his own words, male specimen, Adonis if you like, but basically is just a tool. Her father, Maurice, as voiced by Rex Everhart, is an inventor of sorts and plans to take his latest creation to a fair. However, along the way, when going through the woods, his horse gets spooked and he's thrown to the ground. The horse scarpers, and then he seeks refuge in a nearby castle, where, you guessed it, the Beast resides. The Beast, as voiced by Robbie Benson, has a temper, to say the least, and takes Maurice prisoner. Not long after, Belle, she goes in search of her father and is led to the gates of the castle by her father's horse. Let's not forget that the horse didn't know Maurice was actually there. that thing had bolted before he'd actually made it to the gates of the castle. But anyway, Belle enters the castle and ultimately agrees to trade places with her father, where, although she's sad at first, through a series of events thereafter, she slowly grows to like the beast, and even love the beast. And the beast even then starts to mellow and fall for Belle. However, fearful of the beast's sort of intentions, and overcome with worry, her father decides to trek back to the castle on his own, but succumbs to the elements on the way. The beast offers Belle a way to kind of look back at her father, and noticing that he's in trouble, lets her go. I mean, that's basically one of the biggest and the most romantic gestures that the beast could have done at that time, even if it was at the time the most painful. What I don't quite understand, however, at this point is why the beast didn't accompany Belle, rescue her father, and then they all go back and live happily ever after in the castle. Again, I suppose it wouldn't have made for much of a grand finale, though, of course. Anyway, at the same time, Gaston hatches a diabolical plan to force Belle to marry him by incarcerating her dad in the local asylum, on the pretense of his ramblings about a beast abducting him and Belle. But when he learns that the beast is actually real, and that Belle appears to have feelings for him, he sees it his mission to go and kill the beast, revving up the local village folk into an angry mob in the process. Will true love prevail? Will Belle get to the beast in time to let him know just how she feels? Well, so, the movie overall is just simply breathtakingly exquisite. It is filmed with the kind of emphasis on a more classic style of animation, and sees the return of the storybook style in introduction and the kind of overall feel. It is filled with a whole host of colourful and interesting characters, not least Belle, the Beast and Gaston, but also the enchanted characters of the castle, including Lumiere, a candelabra, as voiced by Jerry Orbach, Cogsworth, a clock, as voiced by Davy Ogden Stiers, and of course Mrs. Potts and her son, Chip, as voiced by Angela Lansbury and Bradley Pierce, respectively. Given that there is kind of a magical element to the film, it doesn't seem out of place, silly, or contrived. It actually enhances the film's charm, on my opinion, and on this occasion, and actually seems more grounded than other Disney films of a similar vein. For instance, we do have dancing dishes, but we don't have any talking animals. And there is a logical reason for the vivacious crockery's existence. The only real question I had was, what did everybody do prior to the curse? If all the furniture is enchanted and used to be the castle's servants, what on earth did they use? What did they sit on? What did they eat off? Perhaps that was what was in the West Wing, and the real reason why Belle wasn't allowed in there. Perhaps it's the Beast's own Monica's cupboard, perhaps. It is a Disney musical through and through, and in fact, in the best possible way. That the songs are not just included for entertainment or a little light relief. They actually tell the story in themselves, and are used to move that plot forward quite consistently. Each is expertly, seamlessly placed within the fabric of the movie, which makes it seem effortless and not forced for the sake of including a song, as can often be the case, and they are most certainly not incidental. It is pretty much the shining beacon of the Disney crown in this respect, and for me, although it's not my own personal favourite Disney movie, it certainly ranks very close to the top. With music and songs written by Alan Menken and Howard Ashman, it has a truly kind of big show feel, like a lavish stage show production. Indeed, it lent itself well to the production of a live stage show, I'm getting all tongue twisted, and an ice show sort of versions. Sadly, Ashman, who had also worked with Menken on the music for 1986's The Little Shop of Horrors and Disney's 1989 hit The Little Mermaid, had died 6 months prior to the film's actual release. And so that the film is actually dedicated in his memory. What an absolute legacy and such a fitting tribute. The movie is the most truly heartfelt and romantic Disney classics which has been made, in my opinion, at the time of this review. And to be honest, I think it would come out top against many other non-animated movies in that respect. Okay, so the likes of 2013's Frozen, The Little Mermaid, and 1992's Aladdin, they're all great movies, which do have some very tender moments in them, but they go for more the comedy element or action elements, whereas The Beauty and the Beast, it comes from the romance angle right from the very start, with mainly kind of incidental comedy throughout, with only the real kind of slapstick style of comedy reserved for Gaston and the rowdy mob in one of the final scenes, which admittedly, it does make for some kind of well-placed light relief. The movie does have some fun musical numbers as well as romantic ones, such as Gaston, which serves as a humorous introduction to Gaston, and the fantastical and instantly recognisable Be Our Guest, which serves as a lavish introduction to the enchanted crockery in the Beast Castle, as sung in grand style by Lumiere. But the standout signature tune has to be that with the film's title, Beauty and the Beast, sung by Mrs. Potts, or of course, Angela Lansbury. Now, I had read that Lansbury had not been too keen to put her voice to the song, insisting that it wouldn't kind of sound right for the tone required. However, she did agree to do a one-take test piece, and it was actually this that kind of moved the production team so much that it was all that was required, and then it was used in the film thereafter. Now, personally, I would have had to have agreed with Lansbury. It really didn't seem the obvious choice for that kind of romantic signature tune which kind of underpinned the movie in such a big way. But once it starts, you can think of nobody else who would have been better suited for that part, and her rendition of the tune is simply moving and complements the feelings developing between Belle and the Beast in the most softest, sentimental and impassioned way possible, pulling at every heartstring that it can. In contrast to kind of the movie's colourful start and of course the castle enchantments, the film does have some very dark moments, reminiscent of Disney's own classic 1937 Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, especially the scenes in the woods and some of the early moments of the Beast. But this kind of does speak to the strength of Belle's conviction and character, as although she does actually have the opportunity to run, and yes, at this moment, the Beast comes to her aid in the woods, Belle chooses to stay and help the Beast recover from his wounds, when anybody else of a lesser constitution would have continued to run. It had, at times, kind of an almost Phantom of the Opera, Gothic-esque, melancholy style. I did particularly enjoy the throwbacks to the monster movies of yesteryear, such as kind of like those with Dracula and Frankenstein, with the introduction of the pitchfork and the kind of fire torch yielding angry mob to rid themselves of a monster they never even knew that they had. The film teaches us a very valuable lesson. Appearances can be very deceiving, and not to always judge a book by its cover. A motto I very much try to live by. Always give people a chance, and although yes, first impressions are important, they may not always be reflective of somebody's true character. So, that brings me to the end of this episode. I do hope you've enjoyed it. Many thanks for watching. If you have enjoyed it, please leave a like on this video. Please do consider subscribing to my channel. But most of all, please do come back to SciFirst MovieTalk for more movie reviews, movie-related other topics, gaming topics, and trailer reactions when, of course, we can do those. So, again, yes, thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.